Warehouse weekly podcast and stream. We are here with Tom Weirman, former candidate for New York State Assembly, very active with Hillsdale College. And we got the amazing Steve Levy over here, former Suffolk County Executive, New York State Assembly. Probably the best county executive we ever had, right? Would you agree?
A little biased.
I'm David Zier with Real
Maybe.
America's Voice News. We got a lot to talk about. I was on the ground in Green Bay, but we got great events coming up here at the warehouse. Go to the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com/events. Check out all the exciting stuff we have coming up, including April 11th, Thursday. Go online and get tickets if you can with a new show. It's a pilot show. I'll be joining Andrew Giuliani and Jason Scoop and others for a new pilot show that would be similar to Gutfeld, I guess you could say. And we're trying to come up with a good name for it, but we are pretty much sold out already. So if you want tickets, go on there right
Maybe
away.
it should be Zier and Giuliani, or should it be Giuliani and Zier show?
No, I
What
was
do you
thinking
think?
about. I was thinking about like Talk Back America or something, or I don't know. It's not going to be my decision in the end. But Andrew Giuliani's a big draw, so everybody lined up to get tickets, and that'll be a lot of
Well,
fun.
anybody's ever heard his show here in New York, he's really great.
He's great.
So it's really great that you're going to be doing
And
that. with him.
he's well spoken, really good guy, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think. So, and then last night at Mar-a-Lago was this epic Board of 911 gala with Trump, Vivek, Kash Patel, Joe the Box is down there with the America First Warehouse. So we're going to wait for all the details on that. Jason Jones, Derek Mull, Sarah Carter, Mark Morgan, Rodney Scott was there. Trump's having a big fundraiser. I think tonight or tomorrow maybe he's going to raise $33 million.
Well, we're talking 65.
Yeah,
over the
I was
course of a
hearing
few
higher. 'Cause I
days,
think
right?
Biden had raised around 33 in his big thing in the city, but now they're saying Trump's going to raise over 45 million. So.
Trump raised, the RNC raised $65 million last month.
Right.
And this fundraiser, I don't know if it adds to that total, but it'll be upwards of 30 million to 45 million. Is that what they're saying now?
right.
That would be epic because the Democrats had that big Lizzo fest over there, and they got about $26 million the same day of the Diller wake. We can get into that.
Talk about priorities. huh?
Yeah, so just stay tuned. Go to AmericaFirstWarehouse.com/events. Why don't we start with the Diller funeral? I covered it for Real America's Voice News, and, it was really moving. Trump comes, was in the press gaggle, but he didn't take questions from the press, made a quick statement, but the family invited him there. And Tunnels to Towers paid off the mortgage there, which was incredible. The family didn't want Joe Biden there. What do you say, Steve?
Well, it's understandable. It's been the Democratic Marxist policies. And Biden will say it wasn't him, but it was. He gave a wink and a nod to everything that was happening from the George Floyd riots on, where you had Kamala Harris saying, let's raise money for these hoodlums to bail them out so they can do it again. And, this was the modus operandi of the Democratic Party, and it's all these blue cities run by Democrats who have done these cashless bail and crazy laws that have led to this. And
Contempt. They think they can get away with murder, basically.
well, that's it. But the most important part of that wake were the remarks of the widow, where Ms. Diller got up there and pleaded with the New York State legislature and Governor Hochul, when are you going to do something about this? We remember the two police officers in New York City who were slaughtered in cold blood right around the riots, and nothing has been done to change it. When will you learn? And again, deafening silence.
And the city council was uninvited members of that because, they, in January this year, Tom, they wanted to put into effect this crazy new rules, these crazy new rules for cops that would be a bureaucratic paperwork nightmare for them, so to disinterest them and going and arresting anybody. But at least
It's in effect.
Is it? Because
Yeah.
Adams vetoed it.
They overrode him.
Oh, did they override it? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What do you think about that one?
Oh, well, I think
Thanks for the update. I didn't know.
we're living in a time where common sense has been thrown out the window. And as it relates to them not wanting Joe Biden to come here, if this was 20 years ago, and let's assume that their family was was a conservative family, and let's say they voted for Trump. But if it was 20 years ago, or even when Clinton was president, I'm sure they would have accepted the Democrat Bill Clinton into the funeral, because just out of respect, he's the president of the United States. You didn't get the sense that Bill Clinton literally hated the country and was trying to dismantle it. But today, in 2024, it appears we have an enemy in the White House, and their family was directly assaulted by that man in the White House. And you say, well, how could it be that man? How could it be Joe Biden's fault? As you said, these policies, when you just let crime go unpunished, this is what happens, and this is why he's not
36 arrests between the two criminals that day on a routine traffic stop, casing the T-Mobile store in Rockaway. Rockaways have a lot of crime in Queens. It's brutal.
Oh, remember the 3 strikes you're out concept in California?
Yeah, now it's 100.
It worked. By the way, it worked. The reforms of the 90s, which Joe Biden sponsored, okay, he ran away in his election in 2020 away from his own bill, which I have to give him kudos. That was a successful bill. Clinton, as you said, was on the side of the victim, not the perpetrator. Totally reversed now because they see that this is their electorate. And the Marxist philosophy is everything is in a prism through racism. And the people who are committing these crimes over and over and over, they're not perpetrators, they're victims of a racist society.
Yeah.
So we have to let them out so that they do not perpetuate this racist system. It's absolutely absurd. And who gets hurt by it? People of color in our inner cities. They're the victims.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Look what's going on in Chicago.
And then Governor Hochul actually shows up. She's thinking, hey, I'm the governor of New York. I'm going to pay respects to this family, this fallen officer. And they literally say, get back in your car and go home. That's saying something serious.
Yeah.
That is the tenor of what's going on in this state, in this country. It is at a really high level right now. There's no way people could ignore the fact that we are being harmed by the political policies, by the DEI mindset, by this anti-racial, falsehood that's being put out there, like you said. And the people are like, they're saying to the governor of the state, get in your car and go home.
Can I add one more point to that
sure.
before we go on? For the people around the nation, if you want to understand where the craziness emanates from, here in New York and elsewhere around the country, listen to the comments from Carl Hastie, who is the most powerful Democrat other than the governor of New York State. He's the Speaker of the Assembly. I knew this guy when I was in Albany.
He's
came
been there
in
a long
that same
time,
year with me, and I said, not too bright a light, despite the fact that he came in through Stony Brook University. I'm a graduate of it. It's kind of frightening. He actually said, when asked, will you do something to stop the recidivism and change the bail laws and deal with the shoplifting in Rockaways and elsewhere, he said, well, penalties don't work. Penalties do not work, so why you bother increasing penalties? It's shown they don't work, and why would you go there?
It keeps people off
He
the
actually
street,
said that.
though.
Right.
It keeps them off the street. So the chance of them getting arrested 30 times, 40 times, this is
the whole thing
madness.
is a joke, and
That's the mindset.
you can't. Everybody's suffering. There's no doubt about
Until it hits their family.
In New York, murders and shootings are down, but felony assaults are up again. Grand theft
Down
auto
from
still
what?
up. Well,
Down
it's
from huge increases.
Well, actually, the murder and shooting rate is at an all-time low in probably 5 decades in New York, which is a good thing. But cops don't want to. The subway crime is up. Felony assaults are at a 23-year high. They're up again this year. 28,000 New Yorkers assaulted in the street last year.
Theft, shoplifting.
Yeah, and all the stuff that doesn't get reported, right?
Right,
And all
that's
the
the thing.
illegal crime. So
Right.
it definitely out of control.
It's a lot higher than what they're reporting.
By the way, did you feel the earthquake this morning?
It was funny. I was about to get into my shower, and my pipe started shaking. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm going to have I had a pipe explosion in my house.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually didn't feel it, but everybody else in the world did.
I was in the doctor's office. I thought the building was going to collapse. What do you?
I
about
thought
you?
a tree hit my house, but then when I heard the dogs next door going crazy,
it's the Ramapo
was shaking in the ground.
Ramapo fault line, apparently. Those Ramapo mountain people whooping it up again.
Renegades.
Really crazy here.
4.8, right? 4.8.
Well, I heard 5.2 in one place.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So it's my fourth earthquake in New York I've experienced. Two
Hopefully,
other
we'll have
similar.
an earthquake in November. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah,
political
figuratively, but
earthquake.
yeah.
From
right?
your lips to God's ears. I spent the week in Green Bay covering the Trump rally for Real America's Voice News. It was another epic rally in the great state of Wisconsin. Iowa nice, Wisconsin nice. These people are the nicest people in the country. You could eat off the floor in Green Bay. What a relief coming, going through Queens and then waking up in Green Bay. Great town, 100,000 people, Upper Lake Michigan area on the Fox River. Republican stronghold. Trump had a great rally. Thousands of people came out. It was a blizzard. I got stuck there for an extra day. 8 to 12 inches of snow in April, slush, driving wind and rain, and 3,000 people still showed up, online. About 2,000 got in, I believe. It was a couple of thousand people. That was really huge. But so much going on in Wisconsin, a bellwether for the rest of the country. It's one of the 7 important battleground states. Mike Gallagher, congressman, 7th District, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I think he's the 8th District, actually. He helped build up the Republican lead up there. It's a plus 20 red district. But he's retiring. He's resigning, along with 19 other Republicans this year in Congress. He will not resign before 4 days from now, April 9th, leaving the seat open until January so Hakeem Jeffries can take over Congress. Very, very suspect. What do you say, Tom?
You really start wondering what is happening in our country. It seems that people are being paid off because he knows that the margin is so slim in the House.
Yeah.
Why would he leave now? I mean, has he actually sat down and answered some really hard questions?
He's leaving on the 19th, and he should leave by the 9th to get that special election so we can hold the seat, right?
I had really admired Gallagher. He was very articulate, bright guy. Was sounding the alarm on TikTok and China.
Yeah.
I said, this guy's going places. And then suddenly he's leaving. But remember, something else peculiar happened with Gallagher. What was that? The Mayorkas impeachment.
Yeah, he voted against
He
it.
was one of 3 Republicans to vote against it. He said, Mike Gallagher? I get, some of the other credit. The guy, Brock, who was the fellow who's doing the...
Buck.
Who's
Buck,
that?
yeah.
Buck, who's signing his contract with CNN. So he was doing that on purpose. You saw where that chameleon was going. But Gallagher, something's up there with him.
Yeah,
I
what do
don't
you
get
think,
it.
Tom? So I looked up on opensecrets.org, great website. It's a liberal website, but it has all the donors and all the contributions for every congressman and every race nationwide. Palantir Technologies, a defense contractor, was his largest donor. They gave him $45,000. I thought that was very interesting, and he's going to work for them when he leaves.
Of course.
Is there some compromising position that he might be in? What's up?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head right now, right? He's going to work for his biggest contributor. He's leaving early, where the Democrats have the possibility of putting another Democrat in his position, basically eliminating our slim majority. This is the problem. We keep you hear about politics is dirty, politics is just a slimy swamp. We're seeing it. And he's doing it out in the open pretty much. I mean, you could go, like you said, you see it in Open Secrets. You know what's happening. You know who's employing him. He's probably going to make a ton of money. And this is what I'm saying is, like, where are the politicians who actually put America first, who care about this country instead of their own pockets? Or is there something else? Are they forcing him out? And there's something on him.
And I don't have a problem with somebody, going back into the private sector and creating a career for themselves.
There should be at least a 2-year window.
Right.
There's
So
gotta be
Trump had an executive action when he
Right,
took
right.
office to ban Congress from 5 years from when they left office. to
5 years, 2
lobby
years, I think.
on
would
K
be-
Street.
That's the way it should be, and there was talk about doing all that. But remember, years ago, there was talk about stopping Congress members from the insider trading. I still don't think that's been enacted.
No,
Yeah.
and
No,
Ro
it's not.
Khanna, the Democrat from the 17th District in Silicon Valley, is for America First Manufacturing. And even though he's a Biden supporter, I interviewed him in New Hampshire. He took the time out. He was the one who proposed that.
Right.
To not be able to invest in the stock market as a congressman, right?
Yeah, and kudos, but they get a little bit of some press action saying they're going to change this disgusting, ugly underbelly of the process. Then the attention goes away and they continue on business as usual. But you would have thought that they would have stopped this. We have a lot of the people in the Defense Department as well who do their thing for the government. They're creating policy, and then a day after they leave, they're going to work for Raytheon
Yeah.
and these other biggies. So it's not just the Congress people, it's those in the deep state who have to be stopped from doing this.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, you're involved with Hillsdale College in Michigan, right? Wisconsin is similar to Michigan. People very upset in the Republican Party in Michigan about Hoekstra taking over the party, even though Trump's supporting him, former ambassador for Trump, right? But most of the GOP chairs in Michigan weren't for that. They still supported Christina Karama because she challenged election fraud. Wisconsin fighting for the battle of the soul for the GOP, the same thing. There's a recall. First one was knocked out with the signatures, but there's another recall effort. They have until May to put the signatures together to take out Robin Voss, the state House leader in Wisconsin, who didn't do that much on election fraud. What do you think of what's going on in Michigan and Wisconsin?
Well, anytime you listen, we have half the country believes that there's either fraud or that our elections are compromised in some way. If you're a person, whether you're Democrat or Republican, whatever political party you represent, that you've been elected, you have an obligation. I mean, the bedrock of the foundation of this country is free and fair elections. If there is any question that says we think there are people cheating in an election, we think there may be fraud here, look, even if it's not happening, you have an obligation to make the elections as safe and secure as possible. And we know the election system is not safe and secure. The fact that you can just vote without any idea in this state of New York and in many states around the country is insanity.
And we know Detroit is a disaster.
Right, and that's just a minimum requirement.
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to know who's voting.
And
right?
there was at least a positive development coming out of Wisconsin where the public through referendum banned Zuckerbucks.
Right.
What's Zuckerbucks? You know, what a lot of people will continue to say, even if, again, if you don't want to go toward the fraud angle, it was an unfair election, and Zuckerbucks were a perfect example.
$400 million went
where,
into it just
one
from
of the
Zucker.
richest men in the world who's got this way liberal slant says, I'm just going to give $400 million to these nonprofit groups, okay? We know what this is. It goes to the Democratic precincts to pull out that vote. How is that not a political donation that has to be registered with the Board of Elections? It wasn't. It was bogus. It should not be allowed, especially in this upcoming election. They've got to do
Now,
away with it.
Wisconsin had a late night dump, 140,000 votes, missing flash drives. They say nothing was wrong with it. Robin Voss
Was
really
it
didn't go
10:30
after
when all these states just shut down counting, and then all of a sudden,
same algorithm
Yeah.
used in all the states for
Right.
these late night votes, and 80% of the votes in Wisconsin or something went for Biden out of those 140,000. Also, I was in Wisconsin, and people came up to me at a Trump rally I did in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, about a year and a half ago, saying that their parents were in an adult home and they had guardianship over their mother, and she still voted for Biden. There was no way she was able to
Ballot
vote.
harvesting. Yeah, ballot harvesting. And that's the real fear. So, even though Republicans lead on every major issue going into this November, I'm still very skittish. I'm very nervous because ballot harvesting is odious. It allows operatives to go into these huge apartment complexes, to go into nursing homes with the ballot
Look
in
at
hand.
Look at Little Mogadishu in Minneapolis.
Right.
The guys are being paid $300 per vote.
On video. The
Right.
Project Veritas had a whole expose on that. And actually, there was a case in North Carolina where a Republican was doing it.
I followed that.
And thank goodness that the judge said, what you did was illegal. But what did that judge do? He said, he threw out the election, said,
threw it out.
have a do-over. When was the last time you saw that? It
Only
was
for-
when a Republican did it.
Only Bridgeport, Connecticut did it for the primary. That
Right,
was one
right,
other
right, right.
example.
so when they pass laws though that actually make it easy to cheat, it becomes very hard to do a do-over, right? So, for example, you have the drop boxes, right? You're supposed to one person is only allowed to have 10 ballots to put into a drop box. That'd be like the maximum they're allowed for their family. The problem is, as the 2000 Mules movie that Dinesh D'Souza
the
put
average
out,
one at 35 to 40 ballots per mule, right?
right, 35, but they did 30 drops, over 30
Yeah.
drops. So they were throwing stacks. And once that ballot hits the bottom of that container, you have to count it because there are legit votes in there as
Yeah.
well. So you can't just throw it all out.
And then, and then they're saying that was only maybe 10% of the ballot harvesting with the mules that went on in the United States, which means there's 4 million votes that are fraudulent, maybe.
Well, hold on
Because
to
that
your
was
hat.
400,000 votes. They
Hold on to your hats because I just had one of my articles published through my newspaper, Long Island Life and Politics, which talks about how New York State is now automatically registering people when they go to renew their license. But you have to realize that New York, just a few years ago, allows illegal aliens to get driver's licenses. So what's happening is the illegal alien is going to the DMV, registering to vote, and it used to be you had to check off a box to affirmatively ask to get registered to vote. Now you're automatically registered to vote, so you're going to have thousands of illegal aliens in New York getting a notice from the DMV in the mail, your polling booth is here. And they're going to think, I must be registered. They told me I am, basically, by sending me this notice.
New York is famously
Certainly.
New York is famously a blue state, technically, because you're having these type of nefarious things going on. You know, when you have Lee Zeldin lose Manhattan, we only gained 17% of the entire vote for governor. I have a feeling there's more than 17%, conservatives. Maybe not, but we know here on Long Island, it's a lot more red over here. Yeah. But when you have all these different things happening in this state in particular, where they're registering illegal aliens, these aren't citizens. Yet it looks like they're going to be voting.
The city council, which was rejected, thank God, has been trying to get 800,000 people with visas or residents of New York that aren't citizens to be able to vote in city.
Well, they actually passed it, but a court rejected it. But they passed the actual resolution to allow the non-citizens to vote.
It's up again. Is it up again?
I'm sure they're trying to get around it in some way. But, this all comes down to you just have to recognize Democrats really want fraud in the election. I mean, there's no other reason why you would be against voter ID. And when even the average Democratic voter wants it, the average African American wants it, there's no way you would be against purging the election rolls of dead people unless you want fraud to perpetuate. There's no way you would allow for illegal aliens to automatically be registered to vote unless you wanted that type of fraud to perpetuate itself. They really want this to happen because it benefits them.
The moral compass of the left is so far skewed, they don't really care what they do, they have to win. The problem I have with this, Steve, though, is, beyond it's wrong, is that it's going to cause people on our side to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should start doing this, because I've actually heard that being whispered. Maybe we should start harvesting ballots, and we should be doing this.
Well, if it's legal, they should.
Well, if it's, but, right, but I'm saying is that we shouldn't be doing
we don't get
illegally,
$400 million in Zuckerbucks.
But my worry is that we're going to start compromising our moral compass.
can't.
And if we start compromising that, who are we then?
But we do have to play their game legally.
Yeah,
we
that's
do
a-
have,
Yeah.
but I think Republicans made a mistake in 2020 by not embracing mail-in voting. Look, I don't like it. I think it's insidious. I do too.
Maybe the week
But,
prior, and that's it.
but if it's going to be legal in the state, and Nassau County, kudos to the Republican chair in Nassau County, they said, we're going to go after these votes through early voting, through the mail-in. If it's legal, we've got to play that game. Ballot harvesting. It's terrible. It should be outlawed. If it's legal in the state, you have to do it. You have to balance it out.
Robs a bank, takes hostages, and kills one of them on video a week before the election, and everybody early voted. What happens?
Yeah, well, it could happen. So let's wait and see.
Comey or the Hunter Biden laptop doesn't get any attention right before the election.
And by the
That
way,
never happened, right?
and by the way, here's another thing I wrote about in my Long Island Life and Politics editorial the other day. They put in place 9 days of early voting in New York, which I think was way excessive. I always call for early voting, maybe the Sunday before election, maybe a week before, whatever. But now they've also passed mail-in voting. Yeah. So wait a minute. You've got mail-in voting that you can get the ballot anytime you want if you're going to be out of the country or whatever. Yeah. Why do I have to pay election officials for 9 days from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.? It's a total waste of money. It makes no sense.
What about making it a national holiday and have voting on a Saturday?
Or Sunday.
Listen, these are things that actually make sense, Dave.
Are we ready for that?
Listen, things that make sense just don't happen, right? Because, listen, you got to understand also, the unit party, right? The Republicans and Democrats who actually work together to make a lot of these laws, they don't want full transparency. They want to control things. Listen, if you look at the the election laws in New York and other states, they are totally skewed to help out just those two parties, making it possible for grassroots candidates to get on the ballot. Not that it's totally possible, but they make it hard. And for third parties or even fourth parties, impossible to actually get on the ballot. So this whole thing is controlled.
So that's another thing. If you're an incumbent, you've got the workhorses out there, you've got the committeemen, and you're a challenger. It's almost impossible to get on the ballot, right? Isn't it really tough, Steve? But you
Isn't
did
it
it because
funny?
you were the best campaigner in New York. I was asked to run against you for Suffolk County Legislature when I was 28 years old, and you were, I said, no way. That guy is the best campaigner around.
Well, I'll tell you, the best thing that ever happened is that you didn't, because if you did and then you would have won, you would have really been sorry, because the guy who I first ran against, he was an attorney from the area, and he always thanked me thereafter because he made a hell of a lot more money staying in the private sector
Yeah.
and doing his thing. But yeah, that would have been an interesting
Nobody knocked on
campaign.
more doors than Steve Levy.
Well, you
there's
know,
no
and-
way.
I mean, I tried to when I ran.
Oh, yeah, so I mean,
came
you
close.
worked so hard, too, and you came very close, right? So,
But that supersedes Democrat or Republican when you
Yeah.
knock on somebody's door. It makes a big,
Of course,
big
sure.
difference.
Yeah.
But what was the question? You led into
I don't
that. I had a very quick response to it, but whatever.
well, should we make it a national holiday? Oh, no, incumbents have all the committeemen going out and getting the
Right.
signatures, so I'm dealing with.
Oh,
like
getting on the ballot.
Shannon Stevens in the second district,
Right.
running against, Andrew Garbarino.
Here was
They
my
were trying to
point on
knock
that.
out all her signatures. They wouldn't define the lines for her, where she should be door knocking and getting signatures, and.
Well, when it comes to ballot access, the thing that makes me really laugh are the Democrats who are building their whole 2024 campaign about the threat to democracy are the ones keeping all of their challenges off the ballot, as per RFK Jr., right? He can't get on the ballot. They're specifically keeping him off, as they did with his Biden's congressman challenger. So they want democracy for all, except in their case, because they don't want any challenges
Bernie
to the
Sanders,
incumbent,
right?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're talking about getting on the ballot, when I was very green when I started running for office, and I thought, hey, it'd be great just to let all the Republicans decide who's going to represent them for the general election. And then when you go through the process of why are they trying to stop me? These are my fellow Republicans, and you don't really know the lay of the land in the political world. And I'm sure it happens on the Democrat side as well. But you start realizing they don't really want the people choosing, right? The party wants to
No,
make the
there's
choice.
a lot involved, and you've got the machine, you've got the AME, the civil servants, you've got all kinds of stuff tied to it. The highway workers in the town, you've got an army of guys to put up signs for you. You've got an advantage, when you're the incumbent, for sure, right?
Oh, there's no question about that. But, that's why it's so important to have a level playing field. And when you see the incumbent class, whether it's Democrat or Republican, trying to quash just a sense of fairness, let the people decide
100%.
who they want. Put it up, let them decide, and then, let the chips fall where they may.
So let's get back to Wisconsin for a minute. A more exciting race is going on there. Eric Hovde, millionaire entrepreneur guy, raised $1 million without his own money to get on the Senate on the ballot to be the Republican candidate against Tammy Baldwin, a Democrat. That would be a key race for the Senate. I don't know how vulnerable she is, but there's a lot of exciting things in Wisconsin because Trump only lost by 0.8%, 20,000 votes.
And he
if
won
you
it in
subscribe
2016.
to that.
And he won it in 2016.
And he won in 2016. What other battleground states are you seeing out there that are important for you?
Well, we've got to get back Arizona and Georgia. They were just a knife to the heart to lose those two. And I think we're going to this go around. I think we're going to get them back. I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse.
Any more
there.
checks in place? Any more checks in place to prevent what happened? 9 hours of CCTV showing people shoving ballots through the machines. Fake water leaks.
I hope we've learned our lesson. The problem with Georgia was you had Raffensperger and Kemp. Kemp is a pretty conservative, good governor, but he was horrible on this issue.
I
And
think
Raffensperger
Trump-
was a sellout.
Trump criticized him for opening too early under COVID, which I agreed with Kemp on that, to open up the state. And did he make an enemy in Kemp then? Was that the reason why Kemp was so hard against
Kemp
Trump? so
sold
much?
out, and I don't mean in an illegal fashion, but he sold out to Stacey
Because he definitely
Abrams.
didn't pursue any fraud for Kemp.
No, he didn't. And worse yet, he sold out. He got scared off by Stacey Abrams. When Stacey Abrams bought a lawsuit, Kemp and Raffensperger, they caved. And they said, all right, we'll settle with you and put in place all of these crazy new provisions. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of people think that it was illegal because they never went through the state legislature.
And the whole basis of this stupid Fannie Willis thing is that the Raffensperger call was thrown out, right? So shouldn't everything else be thrown out, Tom? And what other states are important for you?
I think, well, listen, I totally agree with you. Georgia, definitely Arizona without question. And obviously there's so many questions about how the election was conducted and machines breaking down and people not being able to vote in Maricopa County and all that. I'm also taking a look at Pennsylvania. You know, I know Scott Pressler, who actually was a guest here at the America First Warehouse. He is like the ultimate,
Yeah, I've
you know,
interacted with
registrator.
him a lot
you know?
over the years.
Yeah,
He's
he-
registered tens of thousands.
And he's literally setting up shop over there in Pennsylvania. And listen, they feel the brunt of this. The Pennsylvanians, they feel the brunt of it. And they see who they elected as their senator. You know, what's his name again?
Fetterman.
Right, Fetterman, who's
actually had some sense knocked into him since his stroke.
right, but that's interesting right there. But when you talk about, you know, they saw Fetterman, they elected a man who could barely speak.
Yeah.
And I think there's got to be a lot of buyer's remorse in a lot of different ways. And we just look at, you go into the deepest blue sections of New York State. You go into the Bronx, right, where it was like 92% Democrat vote. People are saying all over the place, blacks, Hispanics, they're voting for Trump. It's a wave. Now, if you asked me about 2 months ago, what percentage of the black population would I think Trump would have gotten? Now, I think he got, I think in the last election, he probably got around 12% of the back of the
7% of women, 15 something.
Right, and if you
plus
talk
percent
to
of
me,
men.
if you talk to me about 2 months ago, I would have said I think you probably get about 18, 19. I'm thinking that's going to be blown up way more by what I'm hearing now. 25 to 30%, I think he may get. I think he's got a shot.
All right, a couple of things to unpack here. You know, Pennsylvania has 70,000 more Republican voters this time around than last presidential election, less Democrats. You know, Fetterman had, Oz wasn't a great candidate in some ways. He didn't have enough money. He was short $14 million. He didn't campaign hard enough. Fetterman had the AFL-CIO. He had the teachers. He had the medical community behind him. Lawyers gave the Democrats 98 million, only 30-something million to the Republicans, 58 million from doctors, 32, you know, on the Republican side. Municipal unions gave 19 million to the Democrats, 1.5 million to the Republicans. Pennsylvania in play, but I just wanted to get to North Carolina. 37% of the voting base there is unaffiliated, 30% are Republicans, 31% are Democrats. I'm worried about it. 47% of those unaffiliated are between 18 and 35 years old. They lean Republican, but I don't know if they're MAGA. Good news is we'll get 3 new congressmen in the Republican side out of North Carolina. But is North Carolina at risk?
Oh, sure is. I mean, Trump won by maybe a little more than a percentage point last time. But a key in all of these swing states in 2016 was was Jill Stein on the ballot, siphoning off just that 1% that made the difference. Now, if you have a Cornel West that is on the ballot, even more so than RFK. RFK will take from Biden, but also
Could
a little
ruin it
from
for
Trump.
Biden?
Cornel West on some of these ballots is going to do Biden in. If he just gets 2% of the vote, that swings it in Wisconsin, Michigan. Pennsylvania's always been tough, but it's a big, big deal. That's why they're trying to deny access to West.
Yeah, so I mean, I know they're trying to deny access to him, but he doesn't have a lot of money, and honestly, he just his
Neither did
appearance.
Jill Stein.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
his
need 1%.
appearance kind of looks like a crazy man. I think Trump. If I was advising Trump, because I think he could really do well with the independent voter who might vote for RFK. He's got.
So does RFK hurt Trump or hurt Biden?
Well, I think he could hurt both of them, but I think Trump could do himself a real favor by doing 2 things. I think if he comes out and says RFK needs Secret Service protection, because Biden has not given a Kennedy.
Good point.
A Kennedy he's not giving Secret Service agents to RFK, and RFK has been begging for that for the longest time, and he deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. And if Trump would stop promoting his vaccine. If listen, he could stay quiet about it. He could say, if he believes that it was a great thing, fine. Don't talk about it because honestly, history has proven that to not be the case. However, what Trump would also say, and this is a big thing, this is where he can help himself by taking some votes from RFK, get on the side of those who lost their jobs, both military, medical community, teachers, and say these people deserve to have their money back, get their back pay, some punitive damages, and get them back to work. Because I know personally, as somebody who was fired for that, people are suffering. But he could take a lot of RFK's votes away just from doing those two things.
Interesting. You brought up the black vote in cities. I look at it as the pro-Palestinian vote may drive Jews away from the Democratic vote.
You would think, but
but even
I
if
don't
it's
know.
1 or 2%, and then you get 5% more of the black vote, and you get a 4% more of the Latino vote, now that's 10%. I mean, that's a big number, right?
That's a huge number in those specific communities. And then you have the independents who may have broke for Biden in 2020. Now, all they have to do, even if they hated Trump as, he's brash, he's braggadocious, he's this, he's that, all they got to do is, and they don't like his personal life, even the court cases, all they got to do is do a compare and contrast of what was life like during Trump's presidency versus what it's like.
The bottom 8.5% of income earners benefited the most under Trump.
Of course. Inflation is killing the middle class and lower class. Doesn't affect the upper class, but it's under Biden and the Fed where they just continue to print money when they kept us locked down for too much time, and they had to just keep printing money to try to keep things floating, and it's killing us.
Yeah.
Well, that's why the whole, Democratic campaign of this is all about democracy, it's not really resonating because people are saying, well, it's not like Trump's going to come in as an unknown. He was there for 4 years. I didn't see critics of his go to jail. Jim Acosta was never put in jail, okay?
Yeah.
We do see critics
But
of the Biden
Rosen
administration.
was, right? The Republican,
Right.
more to the right reporter from Fox, right?
Well, exactly right. So it's not really going to resonate. There is going to be this comparison of one incumbent versus another incumbent. And they were both incumbents, and we're going to long for the energy independence, the 2% inflation, the 3% interest rates, and the like, and the lower crime rate. And they said, we had it before, we can get it again.
So, yeah.
I just want to add to that when you're saying the Biden, the left tries to talk about Trump's trying to destroy democracy. Listen, plenty of candidates have questioned the veracity of the vote. Al Gore did it. Hillary Clinton did it.
Stacey Abrams.
Trump did it too. Trump went the route which was supposed to go try to bring legal cases, and it didn't work out. The Democrats are literally using three-letter agencies to stop a political opponent. So you want to talk about stopping democracy?
Right.
They're doing everything they can.
Well, it's projection. That's what they do.
Oh, that's
You know,
what
they
RFK
say-
said.
Yeah.
RFK answered that question on CNN saying, what are you talking about? I can make the case that Biden is the
Yes,
guy who's the biggest
saw
threat
that.
to democracy. He
Sure.
censored me. I was out there saying my piece, and his DOJ and FBI clamped down and silenced me. That's not a threat to democracy. It sure as hell is.
There's no doubt about it.
And they did it through social media,
Sure.
right? And then finally, we had one courageous person, Elon Musk, says, you know what? This is bullcrap. We're not going to do this. I'm going to buy Twitter, and we're going to allow free speech.
Well,
And
notice how
simple
they're
as
coming
that.
after him now, right?
I want to see Musk put up the bond for Trump. That would be awesome, give him that $175 million. We have about 3-4 minutes. Let's talk about the economy really quick. I had Dave Brad here a couple of weeks ago. It was a phenomenal night. The Liberty University Dean of Business talked about the effects of immigration on the economy, inflation. You retire, you have 20% less to work with, and it's compounded the inflation, right? So it's really just this huge number. I'm seeing the restaurants less full, even more than before. A bowl of soup in the diner now is $8.
Well,
Who
under
knows?
the- yeah.
How far can we go with this?
Under the Trump administration, you
How
had the
long can we go?
highest ratio of savings for people. Now we're at the lowest point where the debt is through the roof. When those grants and those checks stopped, in the mid part of the Biden administration, people wanted to maintain that spending level, and they're borrowing out the wazoo. So this is
At high interest rates.
This is a really,
Credit card
really
fees are up 50%.
canary
since,
in the coal
Biden.
mine.
Credit card debt's at 1.16 trillion.
Commercial real estate, as you know, David, it's your business.
Down
It's ready to
35%
collapse.
in the major cities, commercial real estate. And foreclosures are up 50% recently.
Listen, if you're a young couple in Long Island, right, you need to make at least $200,000 to $250,000 to actually just feel comfortable here for the most part. If you're a young couple, you're not doing that. When the average small 3-bedroom ranch is going for $500,000 to $600,000 to $650,000, you're not going to have a home. But you know who is going to have the homes? Who's buying the homes right now?
BlackRock.
BlackRock is
Yeah,
buying.
tell us about what's going on in New York State.
So BlackRock is buying up homes in New York State by the bundle, thousands and thousands of them. And it just so happens that New York has one of the highest rates of illegal immigration. They're coming over the border. We're one of the biggest border states right now. And New York State is going to be paying, and they're saying we'll offer homeowners to house illegal migrants at the tune of $125 a day. Now, we know that the average person is not going to take some dude
Is
who
there
just
a
can't.
number? How many houses they bought?
I don't know the exact number. I know it's in the thousands. I'm not sure if it's reached 10,000. But what New York State is saying is, like, we're going to pay homeowners $125 a day to house illegal migrants. Now, that comes out to a little over $3,000 a month for one person. Now, BlackRock, if they own the home, that's not a family owning the home. That's a
Why
company.
is it subsidized for them to give that $125?
New York State is paying the owners.
Straight from the government.
So if
taxpayers.
BlackRock, and this is the math that they were doing, if they get 4 migrants in a home, they at $125 a day per migrant, that'll be $15,000 a month in revenue. I mean, what a great investment for BlackRock. But you know what? It still drives the prices of the home up, and the average person cannot live anymore. Apartments, you're talking about 1-room apartments, $3,000 to $4,000.
Dig deeper on that, because I'll do a special on that.
Yeah, okay.
BlackRock buying homes to go house illegals.
Yeah.
That's a big story. If
Of
we
course.
can
And
put
throw into
together-
that how New York State is going to include illegal aliens now in getting the work credit on your tax write-off. You know, the work credit that you get, illegal aliens will now be eligible. It's a crazy world.
But it's like, does New York have a money printing machine? No. Where is it going to come? They're just going
You.
to keep raising our
Tell
taxes.
Tom's paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Don't forget to go to the America First Warehouse, theamericafirstwarehouse.com. Go to the events page. Check out all the exciting things. We've got our new talk show piloting on Thursday night with Andrew Giuliani. We've got a great panel on there. And we're going to bring you great events coming up. We got General Flynn coming in May. So don't forget to check it out. Go to the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com and then follow us on Twitter at AmericaFirstWH, at AmericaFirstWH, on Getter at the AFW, and then on Truth Social at the America First Warehouse or the America First Media Campus, and on Facebook at the America First Warehouse. Join us on social media, join our groups, and I want to thank everybody. Steve Levy, tell us about your organization.
Well, as the Center for Cost-Effective Government, you can find all my writings with Newsmax and other places at stevelevy.info, and look for our conservative newspaper, Long Island Life and Politics, lifepolitics.com.
And Tom Weirman, you have a new role with Hillsdale College, right?
Yeah, well, my wife and I, we've been on the Parent Steering Committee for the past year, and we were just asked to be the co-chairs of the committee going into the 2025-2026. So we're very honored to be able to do
Very
that.
exciting. Places like Hillsdale, even Liberty University, churning out responsible American citizens for a change. Really very cool. I'm David Zier, Real America's Voice News. Check out Breaking Point tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Live. Download the Real America Voice News app or watch us at americasvoice.news, Pluto Channel 470, Samsung TV Channel 1029. I got a great guest. I have J6 political prisoner Derek Evans running for Congress in West Virginia's 1st District, talking about how they can't hire EMS workers in West Virginia, but we can pay for EMS workers in Ukraine. I've got a great show for you tomorrow. I got Man on the Streets on the Green Bay rally. I'll probably be in Atlanta or something for Trump this week coming up. We're going to cover the trial next Friday on the ground in Manhattan. And also you can follow me at Dave Zier on Twitter, at David Zier on everything else, Getter, Truth Social, Facebook, and David W. Zier at Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us. A special thanks to Joe the Box, Martin on the tech side here. Joe the Box has the most patriotic venue in the United States, the America First Warehouse. We'll see you soon.